Hello again, welcome back to the Fire Burns Within channel. Time for my latest film roundup video. These are the 10 latest films which I've watched online, and this is my quick rating and quick review for these 10 recent-ish films, I guess. Some of these might be a bit older, but they're mostly 2021 releases, I think. Okay, stay tuned for this. Film 1, A Quiet Place, Part 2. This was an okay film. Sometimes some parts of the film are a little bit, well, I don't want to say stupid, but just a little bit silly, let's say. But I've seen far worse as a sequel. Cillian Murphy's, he's the main... the new main man of this film. The other actress, whose name I've forgotten, she's back in it. Emily Blunt, I think it is now. Come to think of it, please correct me if I'm wrong. She's good. Obviously, this is a big budget film, so the effects are good. The whole premise of the film with having to keep quiet to avoid monsters making a meal out of you is a little bit laughable, but the acting is quite good. It's pretty good, and the film was okay. It keeps you going. It's an enjoyable film, but my rating for this is 6 out of 10. The next film I saw was called No Sudden Move. This film had a bit of a stellar cast. A lot of famous actors starring this one. I think this is sort of seen as some kind of I don't know what you call this type of film noir. It's got quite a lot of actors, quite a lot of dialogue, lots of criminals double crossing one another, very difficult to follow plot. It's got a few interesting scenes. The acting is very good for the most part. The convoluted storylines and actors speaking in riddles, it sometimes throws you. It's like, what are you guys saying? What is all this about? Maybe it needs a more attention than I was able to give it, or maybe it's just going above my head. I don't know. But I watched it all the way through without fully really comprehending exactly what was going on at all times. It's quite a complex little tale. It's a little bit long. It's okay. I mean, I can't rate this very highly, but again, 6 out of 10 for No Sudden Move. The next film I saw is called Voyages. This film had an interesting concept. Something like a Lord of the Flies scenario, but set in space, set in sort of like a futuristic scene where these young, at the time of the beginning of the mission, they're sort of like not quite teenagers. They're sort of like 8 and 9, and they're sent to space, and they're given a chaperone who is I forget his name now. Colin Farrell. That's it. It comes to me. Colin Farrell is like their chaperone, but sort of he doesn't have much of a role in the film, and there's not really any other stars. It's sort of all new young guys, and they sort of grow up. And one of them becomes very rebellious and wants to take over, and then he dies and so on. It's very similar to Lord of the Flies, but set in space. The good thing about this film is the very nice camera work and the visuals and the effects. Very, very cool throughout. The acting is a little bit below par. It's sort of slightly... I don't know, I won't say amateurish, but it's slightly it's your first acting job, if you like, for a lot of these actors and actresses, apart from Colin Farrell, of course, but his role is quite limited in this film anyway. But I didn't mind Voyages. I give Voyages 6 out of 10. The next film is called The Stay. This was a pretty horrible film. It's like a made-for-TV movie or straight-to-DVD type movie. It's sort of like a horror film, if you like, a little bit. The actors and actresses are all, I don't know what type of actors and actresses you call these, up-and-comers or jobbing actors, if you like. The story is about two couples who head for some kind of sort of retreat in the mountains, but they come across some kind of psycho guy, but they've got problems in their relationship between the two, and there's a lot of silly things going on, and there's like an affair between the couples, between the couples, and some stupid things like that. But I really hated The Stay, and I watched all these films all the way through. I mean, this one was not good. Avoid The Stay if you can, but I didn't, so I rate it at 1 out of 10. The next film on the list is called Cherry. Finally an interesting film, but with a reasonably grim subject matter. I'm not aware of who Tom Holland is. Apparently he is quite famous. He was in some kind of superhero film, but I don't watch superhero films, so I have no idea who Tom Holland is. And his face is not familiar to me either. But he plays the lead character in this film. It's a grim story of a guy who's suffering from PTSD after his return from a tour of duty in Iraq. He turns into some kind of bank robber to feed his drug habit and also his wife's habit in the end. There's some very harrowing scenes in this, and some of his robberies are slightly silly as well, but the acting is always very good. Even, not always Tom Holland. Some of the actors are very good as well. The film is a little bit overlong. It's sort of, drawn out to the maximum possible. But this was a good film, so 7.5 out of 10. The next film on this roundup is called Cerebrum. This was a low-budget sci-fi sort of memory swapping drama. A young man gets involved in his dad's sort of memory scanning experiments and gets framed for killing his own father, but has to use the technology his dad created to prove his innocence. Lots of sci-fi convoluted stuff, some decent effects. The premise is actually cool, but the execution is poor. The acting is okay, but it's very low budget in the end. So just a 5 out of 10 for Cerebrum. The next film is called The Protégé. This is a very slick Hollywood style film starring Samuel L. Jackson and a lady by the name of Maggie Q, who I haven't heard of. This was a good film. I mean, this was an enjoyable Hollywood type popcorn film about a sort of assassin, a lady assassin who is trained by Samuel L. Jackson's character Moody to sort of avenge her childhood massacre of her family in front of her eyes. There's some very good fighting scenes. The acting is pretty good. Michael Keaton is in this film as well. There's some totally unbelievable sections, but this is popcorn film, made in Hollywood, so you just got to go with the flow. But The Protégé was okay, I didn't mind this film. It was okay, so 7 out of 10 for The Protégé. The next film on this list is The Green Knight. This was a slow-moving, artsy film. Very well acted, but extremely slow pacing over a 2-hour length. Makes some scenes quite a chore to sit through. I still quite enjoyed this Arthurian tale and legend. Dev Patel, he plays the main character. The supporting cast is good. All the acting is good. It's an interesting take. There's very little action, but the picture is very, very visually striking. So it's very cool just to look at the scenes. There's no real heroism as such. Just lots of moods and some doomy scenes. There's a little bit of gore here and there. There's not, the story follows the tale of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, but I'm not too familiar with that tale. I need to read up, but this is basically some kind of moral tale on how to behave and how to be a good person. But I don't know, I quite enjoyed this film. I didn't mind this. So 6.5 out of 10. The ninth film on this list, and this one is one of the worst movies of this year, no doubt, and also literally one of the worst films probably of all time. It's called Out of Death. It stars Bruce Willis, amazingly enough, and this was filmed during the pandemic, and basically the film was made in 9 days, and Bruce Willis was there for 1 day apparently of filming for his parts in the film. This is really an atrocious film. I mean, the way the lines are delivered by the actors, especially the two cop actors, is like, it's horrendous. It's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like just a jokey way of delivering the lines. I know there's some comedy elements to it as well, but it's just laughably bad and just not good. Bruce Willis's lines are just horrendous. I mean, I don't know how much he makes for this film, but I hope it's something worthwhile, because he absolutely phoned this one in. This is just the worst. The picture looks bad as well. It looks like you could shoot a better picture on your iPhone 12. Seriously, it doesn't look good. This is just a terrible, terrible film, and I watched it all the way through to the end. I mean, this is the same type of film where you come across a car crash and you watch it because of your morbid curiosity, and it's the same for this film. So this film, I'm afraid, gets a fat 0 out of 10. Okay, the final film in this roundup is called Awake. This was like a sort of a horror film, if you like, but with sort of a little bit of sci-fi involved. Basically, the premise is that after some natural disaster event rendering people unable to sleep, there's some sort of need for a cure to let people sleep. Otherwise, if you don't sleep, basically after like 72 or after a few days, your brain begins to swell and your head explodes and you turn into some kind of freak, or everyone gets super angry because if you don't sleep, your state of mind becomes heightened or whatever. So basically, it's a mother who's trying to protect her family because her daughter probably can sleep, and they're trying to take her abilities to sleep and find out how it is to save the human race. But people are turning into like very aggressive zombies. The acting is quite cool. It is low budget. You can tell like this is a low budget film. Obviously, there's not any real great scenes of acting class or acting skill, but the acting overall is reasonable. The ending is very poor. I mean, I can give away the ending. Apparently, if you're about to die from lack of sleep, if you go into water and you get drowned, it's like a rebirth, if you will. If you come out of the water after and they resuscitate you after drowning you'll be born again and you'll live again, something along those lines. So Awake gets a 4 out of 10 from me. It's better than Out of Death by a long way, but it's still no great shakes. Okay, that was it. My film roundup, my latest 10 films watched. Stay tuned for the next one. See you later.